Well, welcome back one and all. We're back to working on our card game. We took a little departure for some time to talk about various data types. And we're going to go back to our card game. And what we're going to do today is we're going to work on a new class. And this particular class is the hand class. Okay, and we think about a card game, we have different hands of cards, right? The dealer has a deck of cards, and that could be considered a type of hand. And of course, they deal out cards to the different players, and each player is going to have a hand of cards. Okay, so this is going to be what's called a super class. And a super class means it's going to be a class that we can use to make other types of hands. Okay, and so it's going to be the basis of all hands, including the deck. Okay, so if you think about a hand of cards, you start with let's just think about you're playing cards and you have a hand of cards. You start by, you have to get cards, right? So we have to think about, like, what are our different attributes and our methods. So there's really only one main attribute we're going to have for our hand, and that's going to be cards. So we're going to have a set of cards in our hand, but we're going to begin with no cards at all in our hand. And then as we get cards, it'll add to that list of cards. Well, right away you can see that in a hand you need to be able to add cards, so we're going to add that as one of our methods. The first thing also, though, is when you have a hand of cards, you might end up discarding all your cards, in which case you might clear out your hand. Okay, at the beginning of every game you would clear out a hand, right? So we're going to use that as one of the methods. Add is going to be another one, and when we add, we need to determine what are we adding to our hand. So we need to send it a card, and so that's why we put that there. And we're going to use the card class. Of course, we want to be able to give a card from our hand into another hand, and so we're going to build that out. In this particular video, this is all I'm going to focus on. But so you get a feel for what we're going to do is the next class that we're going to create is going to be the deck class. And this will be a subclass. It's going to be built from the hand. So it's going to be a specialized type of the hand class. Okay, so the deck will be a hand, but not all hands will be a deck, if that makes sense. Okay, so the attributes for that will be cards, but it's going to be inherited by the hand anyway, so we don't have to actually set that. It'll be available for it. And then the methods we're going to have for our deck is think about what you have to do with the deck. Okay, first of all, you're going to need cards. You're going to need to populate your deck. We're also going to want to shuffle, right? A lot of times you want to shuffle your cards, so we're going to add that method. And then finally, we need to deal out our hands, so our cards, so we're going to do that. And also, we're going to manage different hands later. But in deal, we're going to be able to deal out as many cards as we want per hand. And so that's what the per hand is about. We're going to start by making a default of 1, but you could change that to hand out 2 cards to each player if you want. Anyway, so that's how we're going to design it. Let's go back to our project that we've been working on. Okay, so here I have Eclipse open to my card game 2.0 project. I've got a card, I've got a game, we got ranks, we got suits. We're going to add a class to it. We're going to do one little modification, though, to our card. And I discovered, let's just go ahead and run game so we can test this out. Okay, we need to make one little change to our card. C1, we gave it a rank of 5. Let's give it a rank of ace, because I want to point out what's going on when we create an ace card. When we run it, it's going to give us a rank, and it's going to say 1 of hearts. And of course, we don't want it to say 1 of hearts. You wouldn't say that. You'd say ace of hearts. So we need to do a quick fix to our card class. So I'd like you to go ahead and open up card. And when you get to the part here on toString, we're going to, if it's face up, we're going to get the rank, right? And that tells us the point value of the rank. But an ace has a point value of 1. Not only that, but our jack, our queen, our king, we don't want it to display 10. We're going to add a new method to our ranks. We already have the get rank, but we have a print suit. So we're going to do a print rank because we want to show it. We can already get the rank and get an integer value, but we want to be able to show it as a string. So we're going to fix it actually on our rank. So we go over to rank, and let's fix that here. And so we're just going to, we already have the public get rank return rank value. So let's just add a new one here, which is print rank. Okay, so what we need to do is, because we want to be able to display this as a string, we're going to create a string value for each of these. Of course, on these, that is not necessary, but I think I'm going to have to do it. I think I have to be consistent on all of them. I'm going to try not doing it, and then if I can get away with it, I will. If I can't, then we won't. So you see what I'm doing here? Okay, so in order to do this, it's not going to like it because it's seeing a new value here. Well, before we created a private field for that, so we're going to create another one right here. So we're going to make it private final string rank string, and then we have to add it to our constructor. Now, I think we might be able to get away with this. Because I think it'll initialize empty strings to nothing. No, it doesn't. So we're going to need to pass it values for each of these as well. So I'll go ahead and put these in here. So this is what it looks like now. We've got our rank string in here. Okay, so we have to add it for every one of these. So we got to be consistent. And it's only because we want to be able to choose between getting the rank value or printing it as a rank so we can spell out queen, ace, king. Otherwise, we're just going to get value of 10, 10, 10, whether it's a jack, queen, 10, king. And they're all going to get the same rank values. We don't want to be able to do that. We want to be able to represent it this way. So we do it by creating a string, rank string here, private field. We set it here. And now we're going to go ahead and create this public string print rank. And it's return rank string, like so. Now on our card, we're going to have to test this out. So of course this is going to cause us to look at our card, and we need to take a look here. If face up, we did rank.getRank. So instead, we're going to do rank.printRank. That way, it gives us the actual ranking as a string. And so let's go save our changes. So all I did was change this rank.getRank to printRank. That way it's going to print it as a string value. It won't give us a 10 if it's an ace or if it's a jack, king, or queen. So when I go back to game and I run it, it should now say ace of hearts, good. And we still have jack of hearts, jack of hearts. So this is now working. While we're on game, we're actually going to delete all of this in just a moment. I wanted to just show you how that worked. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new class now. So to add a new class, you just right-click on the project, and it's going to be new and class. And now this is a hand, so we're going to type out hand like so. Okay. And we do not need it to have a main method, so we're going to get rid of the main method. However, I do want to point out, notice modifiers, it's public, but notice superclass. I told you that hand is going to be a type of superclass. So the superclass of hand is this java.lang.object, and we haven't really talked about that, but every object you create, every new class will be built off of either this object as a superclass or one that you create or another class that becomes the superclass. We are going to check the inherited abstract methods, and we're going to click finish, and that should leave us with our hand right here. Okay, so we're working on our hand. Once we have it here, we're going to create a set of cards. So we need that to be our first attribute of our hand. So we're going to make this private like attribute should be, and it's an array list. This time it's an array list of cards. We already have our card class that we've already created, and we're going to call it cards, and we're not going to set the value here. We're going to let the constructor do that. And the constructor, of course, will be public. And in it, we're just going to set the cards equals new array list. Like so. So this creates our set of cards. So when we create a new hand, it will always begin with a list of nothing. Okay? So we're going to add our methods that we're going to do, which, of course, we need to be able to add cards. We need to be able to clear cards. So let's start with the clear. Now, clear cards is a method that doesn't send anything out. We do it just like that. And it will be cards.clear. Like so. So when we clear the hand, we clear out all of the cards in our hand. And it's void because we don't need to return anything. Next, we're going to be able to add to our cards. This is also going to be void. We don't need to send anything out. However, the difference is in this case, we need to be able to add a card object. Like so. Now we're going to use the array list. Cards has an add right there. So it's very simple, right? It's also void because all we're doing is adding. And this is where the array list can be very handy when programming. Because half of the stuff we're trying to do to our hand, it already is built into array list anyway. Clear and add. And so we just style them like that. Next, we're going to want to be able to give a card, but let's also do a show hands. We'll call it a show hand. Now, this case, I think we're going to return a string here. We'll call it show hand. And in this case, actually, we don't. Yeah, I guess we're going to want to do that. We're going to return a string. We'll just call it str. Let's make it an empty string. And then, of course, we're going to return that string in just a moment. But before we do, we want to loop through our hand. And for every card in the hand, we want to add it to our string. So we're going to use the for each loop. So you start by indicating what we're looping. Each loop, we're going to look at a card. So we got that C. And then we're going to append to our string. And remember, we had that in our card, we had a toString right here.